And would we please just rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Cameron Trent.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So we have the new configuration of our board. So for the benefit of those in the audience who don't know everyone and those who are watching us, I'm just going to introduce the dais since we have a few new players here. So for the purposes of my right and your left, we have Trustee Kavanaugh, who is new to the board, so welcome Trustee Kavanaugh. Trustee Barry. We also have with us Barbara Emmerholz, who is from Guercio & Guercio. She is now a partner of Guercio & Guercio and will be our key attorney here at the board, so we welcome her in her new capacity. And then we have our incoming superintendent, Mr. Antonio Santana, who's joining us at the dais today, and Vice President Hayes, and Trustee Trent, and Trustee Flippin, and then of course we have our trustee clerk, Chris Flynn, and Sarah Capoletti, who is assistant to Chris Flynn, but she's the executive secretary to the superintendent's office. So that's your dais as we begin tonight. So we had the Pledge of Allegiance, and for the purposes of emergency evacuation, everyone in the room should know that the emergency exits are located immediately to my right, your left, and also directly in the back of the room. In the event of an emergency, please leave in an orderly fashion through these exits. This is a smoke-free school district. Smoking is not permitted in the building or anywhere on the school grounds. This is also a hate-free and bully-free school district. Thank you. So now we will get into our agenda. And although this is a board consent agenda, we will take each item individually. So first we need a motion and a second to accept the minutes of June 8th. Can I have a motion and a second to do so? A motion by Trustee Trent, seconded by Trustee Barry, I apologize, you can't second that, you weren't at that meeting just yet.
Oh.
So it would have to be either myself or Ann. Would you be
Second.
so kind, Vice President Hayes? And then all those, you can vote, however, because you were able to read those minutes. So all those in favor of approving the minutes, please raise your hands. And seeing all hands raised, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next, the item for discussion is a request for a leave of absence. And as board president, I will make the motion to approve the leave of absence for the purpose of discussion. Is there a second? Is there a second? Seeing no second, the motion fails for lack of a second. And the final item in the board consent agenda for item C3 is a request for attendance at the New York State School Board Association Annual Convention and Expo. And I would like to take a point of personal privilege to explain this resolution. The resolution involves myself, the New York State School Board Association, who we use for our training purposes, and we have membership, all of our trustees are members of, and our school district is resuming live conventions this year for the first time in 3 years. The convention is up in Syracuse, New York, and I'm requesting to attend it in person. And however, I'm only asking the district to support the registration fee for 2 conferences, the pre-law conference and the actual convention and the expo itself. I am not asking the district for reimbursement for travel, for food, or for hotel. So the motion reads accordingly. Resolved, the Board of Education hereby authorizes the registrant of Cheryl A. Felice, Board of Education President, to attend the New York State School Board Association Annual Convention and Education Expo on October 27th through October 29th, and directs the district to pay payment of the associated costs pursuant to the district policy, except for hotel, lodging, food, and travel. And so it would be just for the registration fees for those 2 conferences. It would be 2 separate conferences, and you have that in your board docs. The registration for the we also take advantage of early registration by registering before September 11th of $515 as opposed to $565, and the pre-conference has one price of $310. So the total cost would be $825. Is there a motion and a second? Motion by Trustee Trent. Is there a second? Second by Trustee Kavanaugh. Are there any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hands. Thank you. Seeing all hands raised, the motion passes unanimously. And thank you very much. I'm very much looking forward to the conference. I had a meeting today with members of the New York State School Board Association who are reaching out to all the new presidents. And their reason for meeting with the new presidents is to promote their training facilities, their free trainings, their webinars that are free, and encourage. It just so happened that we were meeting, even though I had already asked this to be put on the agenda for your consideration. So thank you very much. So that concludes the consent agenda for item C, and now we're on to communication and announcement. And first, we'll hear from the Assistant to the Superintendent, Mr. Antonio Santana.
Thank you, President Felice. Something I didn't anticipate on announcing tonight, but I feel remiss if I didn't, is that our legal counsel is a Bellport grad. And I think that's pretty fantastic. So I just wanted to acknowledge that publicly and welcome her to our team officially.
Thank you very much.
Really happy to have you here. I'd like to begin just by saying once again that I'm honored and humbled to have been afforded this opportunity to serve the South Country School District. On July 30th, I will officially assume the title of Superintendent of Schools. And I just wanted to publicly acknowledge and thank Dr. Gianni for helping me out during this transition. We have spent the last couple of weeks together, and his institutional knowledge certainly has been a huge asset to me. So I just wanted to give him a public acknowledgement and wish him well on his retirement. So good luck to him, and thank you. I also wanted to provide the board and the public with a summary of my first 2 weeks in South Country. During the course of the last 2.5 weeks, I've been working on familiarizing myself with the district to the greatest extent possible. Aside from meeting with the administrators and staff members, I have had the privilege of attending community events such as the Beach Ball fundraiser, which was planned for the Boys and Girls Club, and an opportunity to visit the Boys and Girls Club itself, the South Country Educational Foundation's fundraiser, Rotary Club meeting, Unity Day at Robert Rowley Park, which was a fantastic experience because I got to meet some religious leaders, elected officials, and other members of the community. And I've also met with concerned parents who are also community members, again, just to kind of make an assessment and learn as much as possible about the school district. Finally, I did have an opportunity to meet with Inspector Somewhat from the 5th Precinct of the Suffolk County Police. And I'm really looking forward to a good working collaboration with law enforcement officials, something that we put children first and sort of work collaboratively to ensure the safety of our community. But again, I'm looking forward to learn a lot more about the school district and pledge my due diligence and watching and working and collaborating with the Board of Trustees to watching the district grow and flourish. One of the first tasks, and this is part of my report that I was assigned, was the securing of 2 administrative positions for the school district. So I was charged with assigning or securing a business official and an athletic director, and I'm very excited to say that both are here with us tonight. First, let me begin with Jennifer Skee. Jennifer Skee was appointed as the Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Management Services, and she is here with us tonight. She brings to the district a wealth of experience, a love of numbers and spreadsheets, and practical experience that will serve her well as we meet the challenges that lie ahead. I want to take this opportunity to publicly welcome Mrs. Skee to the team and thank her for joining the team, and I'm looking forward to working with you. If you want to be acknowledged, please stand. I also am excited to introduce Patrick Hayes, who was appointed as our new athletic director and who is also here. I want to publicly welcome Mr. Hayes as well. Mr. Hayes brings an impressive repertoire of sports that he has coached, from varsity basketball to tennis. In addition, he has not only worked as a teacher and an administrator, he has a great understanding of the important role athletics and health play for our children. But it was really a student-centered approach to our conversations that really stood out to me. So I'm really looking forward to collaborating with Mr. Hayes and watching our student athletes flourish, with an emphasis on the academic part of being a student athlete and an emphasis on celebrating all of our sports and all of our student athletes. So while neither Mr. Hayes or Ms. Skee are officially on the job yet, both have already spent a considerable amount of time with us here at the district as they're transitioning into their new roles. So welcome, and I'm happy to have you a part of our team. I wanted to give the community and the Board of Trustees an update on our pre-K enrollment. As of this afternoon, all of our full-time slots are full. We have 90 students enrolled in our full-day program. In addition, we have 18 students enrolled in our morning half-day program and only one child enrolled in our afternoon half-day program. Of the 18 children enrolled in our half-day program, 13 are on the waiting list for the full-day program. I also want to note that we still have spots available for our PM half-day program. So please contact our registrar should you be interested in enrolling your child. I also want to note that sometimes spots do open up during the course of the summer, so please keep checking in with the school district if you have an interest in enrolling your child. We will continue updating the community and the Board of Trustees on a regular basis in terms of our enrollment in our pre-K program. And finally, I want to conclude with talking a little bit about the working relationship with the Board of Trustees. Really excited to be working with a Board of Trustees that have so many different perspectives and points of view. I think we are a group of people that not only have diverse backgrounds, but diverse perspectives. And that is a huge asset in the functionality of a team. I'm confident that all the interests of our community, that we all have the interests of our community at heart, and we have the potential to do great things for the district. So I'm really looking forward to our collaboration, and happy to be here. And that concludes my report, so I defer now back to President Felice.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And thank you for that very thorough report. Around the table, anybody have anything they'd like to update us on?
I don't have anything at this time, President.
Trustee Barry? Trustee Flippin? Trent? Vice President Hayes? Okay, I will just give you a little report on, to echo a lot of what Mrs. Santana has already reported, that we did have a chance to sit down in our first agenda meeting with both myself and Vice President Hayes. After that, Vice President Hayes and I did speak on ways in which we could collaborate for the benefit not only of our Board of Education and how we work with the superintendent, but also how we address all the stakeholders. So we're looking very forward to all of that. I can also support Mr. Santana in the fact that he and myself and Mr. Trent and Mr. Flippin and Ms. Hayes were also at the events that he named. Both the Beach Ball, the South Country Education Foundation event, and also Unity Day, and he was very well received, and we do appreciate that he came on board and hit the ground running. So thank you for that, for the good work in reaching out to the community, and also reaching out to our parents who have been asking to meet with you. We know we've really filled your plate right off the bat, but we really do appreciate the time that you're taking to get to know them.
I appreciate the sentiment, thank you.
So, we had a little noise complaint at the Brookhaven Elementary School, and I had to tear the superintendent, soon-to-be superintendent, away from his busy work. But it was necessary to establish the continuity between our residents who do call and want to get a response, because there was a nuisance problem in the area. So it was met. I was very appreciative that the superintendent was able to be there, along with the president, and also a representative from BOCES Health and Safety, our facilities manager, and Principal Raymond. And a compromise measure was reached to decommission the noisy swing that was causing disturbance in the neighborhood, and much to the very satisfaction of the residents. So thank you very much for taking a swift and I think reasonable action. And then today, I mentioned it briefly, that I had a Zoom meeting with the New York State School Board Association, Mr. Barry Etzwitzel, who is the new provider to the association for onboarding new presidents, and to review the training opportunities and retreats available for board members. He gave us a list of items to consider, which I did share with the superintendent and with the Vice President Hayes, that we are going to discuss at our next board agenda meeting, or another subsequent meeting to that, and then we'll bring those items back to the board for consideration for a retreat or other trainings. But anytime you can take advantage of the New York State School Board Association's trainings, please do it. You will gain so much from it, and they offer so many trainings that are free now. So please take advantage of all of those. And that's what I had. And just in conclusion, in going forward, in a conversation that I had with Vice President Hayes, she conveyed to me that I do give a written report on any of the trainings I take, and I do like to repeat that report at the meetings for inclusion in the minutes. It was expressed to her, and she expressed to me, that that becomes a bit cumbersome at meetings. So what I have decided to do is to discuss with Vice President Hayes and the new superintendent. I'm going to still provide a written report for all of you, and if you have questions, you can ask me, but I would like to create a mechanism on our website where they can be available to the public for viewing. So we'll discuss ways to do that going forward so that we don't belabor our Board of Trustees meetings. Okay? And that's all I had to report. All right. And now we have guide to board meetings. Do we have any cards? We have no cards for public portion. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak? You would have to just fill out a card. No one? Okay, we will move on. Items for discussion, and the next is for you.
Thank you, President Felice. Our first item for discussion is a second reading of Board Policy 1511, Agenda Format. This is a simple policy revision that formalizes our current practice. As a reminder, under item B, we've added hate-free and bully-free to the current smoke-free remarks. The Strategic Planning Committee and the District Council have both reviewed and approved the revision. So I offer this revision for the board's review as a second reading and recommend the board's consideration and action.
So this action requires approval. You heard the reading. I actually used the verbiage already tonight, so we're ahead of the game. But we need a motion and a second to approve, and then we can discuss if you have any other items to discuss. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Kavanaugh, second by Vice President Hayes. Any other further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of policy agenda change 1511, please raise your hands. Thank you. Seeing all hands raised, the motion approves unanimously. And next item.
Moving on to our second discussion item, which is the scheduling of a board retreat. Given that we have 3 newly elected trustees, and I myself am new to the district and team, it's important that we meet and discuss all things relevant to the governance of the school district. Our ability to work collaboratively and cohesively is going to be essential to our success. As part of that dynamic is understanding the role the superintendent plays in administering the school district and the role the trustees play in setting policy, proposing school budgets, approving and disapproving the superintendent's recommendations, and serving as a liaison between the community and the superintendent. We have proposed several dates, and I'm hoping we can determine a date in the very near future to make this happen. I think it's essential and imperative that at the very least we establish some operating norms as soon as possible. So I ask the board to please consider solidifying a date for our board retreat, and I pass it along to you, President Felice, for discussion.
Okay. All right, discussions on retreats. The 2 dates that were proposed in our board update were not able to be, we couldn't reach a consensus for everyone here. Does anybody have dates and/or times that they would absolutely not be available? So in proposing new dates to you, that we could be cognizant of those.
What times are we talking?
So may I, Vice President Hayes had offered some suggestions. So.
Okay.
Well, I'm also wondering, instead of doing back-to-backs, if you had any idea, about the topics, maybe organizing one and then another?
Correct. I know, be totally amenable to that if the Board of Trustees feels that that's doable.
Certainly to get off the ground,
Correct.
even if we can get one meeting scheduled. Because I think you're so right when you speak about, setting some guidelines as to how we operate. Certainly we have expectations for you, you have expectations of us, and we need to understand what those expectations are so that we can meet them on behalf of our district.
I also want to note that Trustee Cheney had indicated some days of the week that he was not available, so just to keep that in mind as we solidify dates tonight.
And those dates that he definitely wasn't available, Thursday through Sunday.
Correct.
Are the ones that were he wasn't available for. But others, we could try. I'm pretty much open. If you're looking at a specific date, I'd have to look at my calendar right now, but.
Can I,
Are you trying to look for a date tonight?
Yeah, can I propose Tuesday, August 9th in the evening? I think we'll be able to, I had shared agenda items with the trustees, but I think we could at the very least talk about establishing the norms of communication at that first meeting. So, just
Would Tuesday, the 26th of July work? Because I think that was,
That doesn't work for me.
It
No?
doesn't
Okay.
work for me.
So the
I
9th?
apologize.
you're suggesting the 9th?
Correct.
That's fine with me.
That would be fine by me.
I'm good on the 9th.
And yes, I could, and what time, 6 to 9?
6 to 9?
6 to
Yes,
9
I
is
could
you
be
had
available
originally
for that.
proposed. Does
Yeah.
that still work?
Absolutely.
All right.
And where is this gonna be?
I want to say I would love to discuss that at our next agenda meeting, possibly, and we'll come up with some suggestions.
All right, so we're tentative at August 9th, 6 to 9.
Correct.
All right.
I think we're definite for the evening, but we're tentative about where.
About where and the agenda item.
Correct.
Okay.
But at the very least, if we can please at least block that out in our calendars, that would be fantastic.
Got it.
Okay.
Thank you. Our third item for discussion is our board priorities. The Board of Trustees have been afforded a copy of last year's priorities, and it is my hope and expectation that we can review the priorities and make any updates or changes as we embark on the new school year. For the public's sake, I just wanted to clarify that priorities are not necessarily goals, but areas of focus for our school district. To call back our last item of discussion, I believe that this is a task that could be accomplished at our retreat.
I think that makes sense.
I agree, I think it should be at the retreat.
So would that be the second portion of the retreat as opposed to the 9th? I think you were saying board norms on the 1st.
Yeah, so what I would propose is that we put an agenda together and we see how the meeting is going. And so we don't necessarily have an item agenda where we mark as our cutoff. Because if we're flowing and our conversation's going well, we may be able to discuss a lot of the agenda items. And maybe we'll make an assessment at the end of that meeting as to our next subsequent retreat.
Okay.
That make sense? Yes.
Yes.
All right, everybody agree?
And
Next.
our fourth item for discussion is our board advisory committees and membership. As a reminder, the board has 4 advisory committees that meet on a bi-monthly basis, which is 6 times throughout the year. Each committee is made up of a district stakeholder representing each bargaining group, the PTA, and the community. So first, we need to confirm who would like to serve on each of the 4 committees without exceeding the 3 members or 3 trustees per committee. Trustees can choose up to 2 committees to sit on. I'm also proposing that we start our meetings in September instead of August to ensure that we have a full complement of committee members present. And finally, I think there was some discussion by the Board of Trustees as to the frequency of the meetings that may warrant a look. So listed below are our 4 strategic planning committees are the strategic planning, our advisory committees, I apologize, our strategic planning committee, health and safety, teaching and learning, and finance and facilities. President Felice.
Okay. Is it the consensus of the board to move forward with maintaining board representation on the committees? That was a discussion we were having at the last meeting. I do feel it is beneficial for us to be there. Is the consensus is to do that, to move forward? Okay. So then, having said that, we'll go around the table to see if you've thought about what those committees are that you'd like to be a part of. So, Trustee Kavanaugh, have you given it some thought?
I have, excuse me, I have, I would like to be involved either with health and safety, teaching, or teaching and learning.
Okay. Trustee Barry.
So my number 1 priority would be teaching and learning. If it was the second one, it would be finance and facilities.
Okay.
I would
Trustee
do
Flippin.
health and safety, and the second one I would do finance and facilities.
And Trustee Trent.
Strategic planning and finance and facilities.
We have a run for finance and facilities. So our new business assistant superintendent knows it's going to be a very active committee.
She's popular.
Vice President Hayes.
I'd say strategic planning and teaching and learning.
Okay. All right, so we have 2 for strategic planning, as I see. With Vice President Hayes and Trustee Trent. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So everybody okay with those appointments? Okay. We have 4 for teaching and learning. We have Barry, we have Kavanaugh, we have Hayes. Oh, so maybe it's 3. Maybe it's just 3. So we have 3, so that's okay too, because it can be no more than 3. Okay?
And I know
Question?
trustee Pacini had indicated his interest via email. I know he's not here, but I don't know if we want to note it
Oh,
down.
actually,
Yeah.
you're right. I did forget to look at that. What was it?
I can look it up. Just give me 1 second.
My question was just, again, not knowing, the president is not an ex officio member of any of these?
The president is an ex
Does that
officio
count
of
as
all
a
of them.
fourth, is what my question is?
I'm sorry, say
Does
that
that
again?
count as a fourth member?
Yes, so then at that point, I wouldn't be able to vote.
Okay. so you
Yes.
still may-
That's right.
Thank you.
So,
I was just wondering.
and for the president to be there, if there is a trustee member missing, then the president could vote if there's only 3 present. But
Thank you.
great question.
So does anybody have access to
I do.
trustee Puccini's email?
Yeah,
I believe we're
all he
looking
said
it
is
up
he would
now.
like to continue on the audit committee and no longer wishes to serve on the legislative committee, which doesn't affect these 4 committees that we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
And the district clerk was kind enough to give us that email, which trustee Kavanaugh just reiterated. Okay, so there's no other meeting, no other committees here that he's requested to serve on, that I can
I was
see.
just saying, I note that can't speak for him, I just note that he was on several committees last year.
Yes,
Right.
yeah,
Correct.
actually, that's in your board docs.
Yep.
He was on health and safety and
And finance and facilities.
finance and facilities. Okay. All right.
And what about the idea of perhaps starting in September, shifting the schedule by month, just to ensure that we have a full complement of committee members?
I think the board will welcome that delay. Are we in agreement?
Yes.
Yes, give it some more time. Okay. So yes, we will start in September.
So we'll provide an updated schedule based on the frequency of meetings. I think we'll just shift.
We were also going to check with some of our administrators on the frequency they believe their meetings need. Maybe some need more, some need
Right.
less. So we can maybe look into that too before we come up with the new dates.
Or it could be an item for discussion at the first meeting
At the
of the
first
advisory
meeting, okay.
committee, and then make an assessment of, what the purpose of the advisory committee is gonna be, and kind of make a better sort of estimate of what the time needs will be.
Okay. All right, so let's get back to, so we've solidified strategic planning. All right? I trust the clerk is writing this down because my arrows here are going to be wrong. Okay?
So I have Ann Hayes and Karen Trent for strategic
For
planning.
strategic
Is that
planning
correct?
so far, okay.
Okay.
So why don't we start with health and safety, because I believe there was just 2 for that one too. Tara Kavanaugh and Raphael Flippen were health and safety, is that correct?
I have-
So we good with that?
Mhm.
Okay. Now we have strategic plan, no, we did, teaching and learning. Teaching and learning, we have Kavanaugh, we have Barry, we have Hayes, and that was it, right? 3? Okay, so we have our 3 for that committee. Yes? Okay, good. We're doing good so far. All right, finance and facilities. Finance and facilities. We have Barry, Trent, and Flippin. So that's also 3. So we're good there. So I think we're covered. Is there anyone that's missing? I think health and safety is missing in person. Health and safety just has 1 or 2 right now,
We
right?
have
Just
2.
And I think there's a
Just 2?
requirement, and I do notice that trustee Pacini was previously on it. Maybe we get his feedback.
Okay, well,
And there's no requirement to have 3, right?
It
There's
just
no
can't-
requirement.
It just can't exceed.
we can't exceed 3 trustees on a committee. Well, actually, do you have a question?
Yes, if Mr. Pacini was not interested in serving on the Health and Safety Committee, I would like to be appointed to that as well.
Okay, so would you mind if we just check with him first?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
So you want to be on 3 committees?
Correct.
okay. All right. And as I recall, Vice President Hayes, you were part of the strategic planning even in your role as president the last time,
Right.
right? Okay. So so we have 3 for strategic planning or 2?
2.
I would like to remain as a committee member of strategic planning as well. And for health and safety, we have 2 people on health and safety? Okay. Well, that's the one committee member, the committee that I'll sit on as a member,
Strategic plan.
strategic planning, and then the others I'll fill in as ex officio.
And just to clarify, health and safety, right now are Tara and Raphael, and will be either Chris or Cameron.
Health and safety is Kavanaugh and Flippin, and we will consult with Mr. Pacini, and if not Mr. Pacini, it will be trustee Trent. Okay? It's not on the list of our advisory committees, but we do have the legislative committee, and since Mr. Pacini did indicate he's not interested in serving on it anymore, what I would need from council and/or the district, there also are committee members for these community members for these committees that have certain requirements that they either have to have children in the district or not. Do you have that information?
I do not. I can certainly work with
Okay.
administration to.
If we could somehow, either through the clerk's office or the superintendent's office and legal, just get that information so I can review that, and then the people that we had, because we should reach out to those people who were serving on the committees, if they are interested in serving again, community members, BTA members, so on and so forth. And then also, if there are vacancies on those committees and what the requirements are to fill those vacancies.
Can I just ask real quickly, it says on the document that a board member cannot serve on more than 2 committees?
It says a board member shall choose up to 2, the board can serve. I didn't see where it says they cannot serve. It just says they
Up
can,
to 2.
will choose up to 2. Is that actual language in a policy, or is that just
Oh,
because
That's my question.
we
Yeah, I'll
didn't
have to
want to
double check.
overburden you?
Right.
Because you didn't choose 3 doesn't mean you don't have to. Because Mr. Trent is looking to serve on 3, I believe is still permissible, but maybe we'll check into that as
I'll
well.
have to look at your policy.
Okay, we'll look into the policy.
And in actuality, the legislative committee was our next item for discussion.
Oh, is it on the agenda?
Yes, and it was listed separately. And just to kind of inform the public, this representative committee serves to look at potential advocacy through collaboration with elected officials and community organizations. And the point of clarification, because the question came up before, last year's committee did include a member of the PTA and the community members listed separately. So I don't want to speculate. I'm hoping that we could look into the makeup, but my assumption will be that the PTA designee would represent parents, and the community member would represent community members that may or may not have children in the district. Again, that's a speculation based on the list of participants from last year.
And then I did reach out to Mr. Pacini about his role. Mr. Pacini also serves on the Nassau-Suffolk School Board Association. And I did reach out to him of his interest to continue serving in that capacity. And he did indicate to me, yes, he will continue in that capacity because he has 2 years left on his term. And then also in the discussions I had with New York State School Board Association this morning, we have the Legislative Liaison that is available, and that is a designation that I had last year and the year before, working in conjunction with the Legislative Committee on all the state legislation that comes through for passage of at Albany. That's a very busy commitment from the period of time from now until December. And then after that, they formulate the legislative agenda to bring up to Albany. Albany did not have live the New York State School Board Associations did not have live lobbying days with New York State last year. They did it virtually. They anticipate they will have lobby days which is something we haven't participated in quite a number of years. So it's something we may want to look forward to down the road. But we will need people to serve on the legislative committee. And then also, who appoints the chair to the legislative committee, Vice President Hayes? Is it the president, do you recall? Or is it the
It was
committee?
basically the committee, it was who wanted to do it. And as I recall, you and Mr. Pacini were like sharing that responsibility.
Right, and last year he assumed the full load. So he's not interested in serving as chair anymore, so that's up for consideration as well as this legislative committee, which they did give us some more documentation on a profile of what it involves, so I will share that with the superintendent, so it could be shared with all of you and you can look at it for consideration. We can put that back on the agenda for the next month.
Could we also have a discussion at some point about having the full, who should be in the full committee, not just representatives from the board?
On the legislative committee?
Yeah,
Okay.
and, exactly how do we see our legislative committee functioning?
Then that's a wonderful suggestion. Why don't we put this back on the agenda for the next meeting? Since we've had some dialogue about it now, we have some information we do need to research on the appointments to the committee, and then also, based on what we did last year, what we were able to accomplish, what we couldn't accomplish, and what we'd like to see going forward. And we'll continue the discussion for decision at the next meeting. Is everyone acceptable to that?
Would you want to consider that to be an item to be brought up at the retreat?
It's a matter of public portion, I believe,
Right.
so I don't believe that can be discussed at the agenda meeting, at the retreat. But we'll have that discussion here. We'll just continue the discussion here. All right, if there's some way we can weave it in to the retreat, then we will. Okay? All right, so we will, since there was no action being requested, or that we're in a position to approve at this point, we will put it back on the agenda for the next meeting.
President Felice?
Yes?
We have not talked about the equity committee and/or any other subcommittees that we may have that I may not be aware of.
Excellent. Okay. Would you like to raise an issue about the role of the equity committee, or we do have to reappoint that committee as well?
I believe we probably do.
Okay.
And if we are gonna do it at this meeting, I would be more than happy to continue serving on that committee.
Okay.
Well, I would definitely want to be part of it if we have it, but I think that maybe that's something that the Teaching and Learning Committee can indicate whether there's a need for the subcommittee now. And that could be more information that's brought back to see how it should be constituted and how we would go about
Are you
participating, but I would like to participate in it.
Are you suggesting that be discussed at the first meeting of the Teaching and Learning Committee?
Yes.
Okay. Does that sound acceptable? Yes. Ms. Doyle? Okay. All right, so then we will put on the, the agenda, for the first agenda, for the Teaching and Learning Committee, the Equity Committee, keeping in mind that the two past trustees who served on that committee are still interested in serving if it is desired for it to continue and move forward. And I will say, for the benefit of the new trustees that are here, it was a very active committee, and I really feel a very productive committee and very worthwhile committee. So I do hope that it continues in some capacity.
Just, I'd like to suggest that, perhaps whether it be the origin document or something along those lines be shared, so that we can all be informed.
So
about
that,
it.
okay.
That'd be great.
Can we provide the new trustees, or the board of trustees, can we provide everyone with the genesis of its creation, and do you have a mission statement?
We do.
For the, okay.
Yes.
If that can be shared through the superintendent's office, and you'll be so kind as to share it with the
And
rest of the board.
also, just so you know, board, we have access to the minutes of all these meetings, all these advisory committee meetings. So as you get more familiar with the board docs and what's available, you'll see it there.
And that's a great point that Vice President Hayes brings up. Also, all the past board updates that came from the superintendent are also accessible to you. So another way that you may want to familiarize yourself with some of the happenings that occurred over the year.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. And if you ever have a question, just reach out to any one of us and we'll just steer you in the right direction.
Sounds
Hopefully.
Looks like we both have some
Hopefully
studying
we'll
to do.
do.
Absolutely. It's voluminous.
There's
Every
lots of
time,
reading on this board.
every time I think I get deep enough, it goes deeper.
It's like,
Just when you think you have it all,
oh, yeah.
there'll be more. All right, are there any other questions? This was very good dialogue about our advisory committees and the legislative committee. Any other suggestions or requests that you'd like to make? Okay. So we will put back on the agenda the legislative committee, and then we will be getting more information about the equity committee out to the board, as well as seeing that the equity committee is put on the first agenda of the teaching and learning committee. And now we have the makeup of our advisory committee. All right. We are on to the consent agenda for curriculum. I'm going to ask Mr. Assistant Superintendent, could we get a brief overview of items number G, 3, 4, and 5, and 6? I'm sorry, yeah, 3, 4, 5, and 6 from the Assistant Superintendent. I did print them out, I did go through them. There's a lot of information to digest, and I believe you have a deadline of August 1st to submit these to the state, or is it longer?
Correct.
It is August 1st,
Yes,
and we do have to approve them tonight.
correct.
So what I'm looking for in particular, and everyone please weigh in on what you're looking for, I'm looking to see that are the plans a mirror of what we've been doing all along? Did we change them in some way? And how well do we think we're doing with our comprehensive plans, and when do we think we'll get our schools off the list that are being monitored?
Do you want me to come to the podium?
If you'd like, that'd be great. Thank you.
So it is a lot of information, so I understand why you would want an overview. Good evening, everyone. So we are designated as a target district. That is our accountability status with New York State Education Department.
I'm going to just stop you for one moment, and I'm going to ask Max, can you just determine if the audio is loud enough so that Miss Doyle is being heard? When she starts speaking, if you could listen in some way and just let us know. And if you could, she is near the microphone, is she not?
Yeah,
It's all over.
yeah.
Okay. So just, if you could project as loud as you can.
Doesn't help.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So our status is a target district, and the reason that we are a target district is because of some metrics that the state is using based on our data for the 2018-19 school year. So that was well before I worked here, and many of you were not here either. The reason why they're using that data is because of the pandemic. So they did not feel that it was appropriate to be evaluated, given that we were in shutdown for part of 1 year and hybrid models for the second year. So there is information that was put out by the state saying that our identification status could change, but we would not be made aware of that until the start of this school year, 22-23. So they suggested that we all still go ahead and create a plan because we would not have that information. So when I shared that with the principals, I also shared that we always have a plan. So this is not for naught, right? This is still good information for us, and it provided us with unique time to be able to reflect on where we are and where we want to go. So the requirement as a target district is to have a district comprehensive improvement plan. That's what we call the DCIP. It's the acronym for it. And that is the district document. That's developed with the committee. There's a parent, there are directors, myself, our consultant from PLC Associates worked with us on that plan, as well as all of the school improvement plans, the SCEP plans. The teachers are on it, and we spend very long days going through these documents. The state released these documents incrementally to ensure that you are being reflective and that you're not just filling in boxes. So the first document that they put out for the DSIP is the planning document, which you'll see on the agenda for approval tonight. And that really is just us reflecting. There's a lot of data in there, different metrics, and forcing us to take a look at what our plan had last year and evaluating our assessment of our goals from last year. And when we literally have to say, did you achieve your goal? No. Did you achieve your goal? Yes. Why? Why not? And then start formulating your plan to develop for this year. Then after we completed the improvement planning document, this was happening in concert with the school improvement plan. So everything was kind of happening at the same time. So you want to ensure that there's alignment between what the buildings are doing and the district plan. And the recommendation from the state is that the buildings are creating their improvement plans, in communicating with the district committee to make sure that that alignment is there and that we make sure that that happened. So if you look at the school improvement plans, you'll see they refer to the district plan in several places to show that that alignment is there. So the district plan, you have to come up with at least 3 priorities. And they give you space for 5, so if you look at the DSIP, you'll see there's some blank pages. That's because we decided to go with 3, less is more. And it's really a continuation of the work that we did last year. Since we didn't have a normal year again, we didn't achieve a lot of our goals. So the first priority is around attendance. Although we did achieve our attendance goal, which we actually were all surprised when we saw that, our chronic absenteeism is still not where it needs to be. So we felt that was a priority to continue. Creating a culture of care where all students feel a sense of belonging and connection to the school community. That is a continuation from the year before, and that's really about providing an environment where all kids feel safe and they want to come to school and they feel connected. A lot of the work that we did in the equity committee, it was attached to this priority. And the last one was our academic goal, ensuring access to learning for all students through instructional best practices. It really is an umbrella that if you look at the plan, it's based on different departments working towards different goals. So that, again, that is the district plan. And then if you look at the SCEP plans, or there's school improvement plans, we have 3. So Bellport Middle School and Brookhaven Elementary are comprehensive school improvement, or CSI schools. That means that they didn't meet our goals on more than one metric. Vernon Kritz as a TSI school, a target school, and they didn't meet the accountability status because of one metric. So what that means is Bellport Middle School and Brookhaven get more support in terms of resources and funding. So when you are an improvement school, you get a grant. And part of what we do when we're creating these plans is we look at this document called Leveraging Resources to decide how we're going to align our resources to what we need based on this plan. So there is a good chance that Vernon Kritz, based on our data, will not be a target school because of that one metric. We feel like that we're meeting, but we won't know, again, until the start of the school year. So the way the school improvement plans are written is, again, a team is developed by the principal, and it's representative of all stakeholder groups. They take a look at this leveraging resources document, at an equity self-reflection document, go through a similar process for the district plan of reflecting, looking at data, seeing if we met our goals, and then formulating plans for the current year. Again, a lot of this is not very different than what we put in our plans for last year because we didn't feel like we met our goals. Implementation of certain things may look a little bit different. For example, we implemented Second Step. It's a social emotional program last year. It was the first year. it was a time for us to say, okay, is this working? Where is it working? Where is it not working? What do we need to change? But really not to answer your question, President Felice, there's not a huge amount of difference from the last year. It's continuing, it's refining, and making sure that, you know, we're on track to meeting those goals. So yes,
Okay.
that was a lot.
But I think you made it a lot clearer. Trustee Trent.
Thank you. Ms. Doyle, what are the goals for each of the buildings that we have planned for?
So they're in this document. So each one has three, they call them priorities. Did you want me to read them?
Yes, please, can you?
Okay. So Belport Middle School, I'm sorry, they're called commitments in the school plans. They're called priorities in the district plan because the state likes to change up words. We will commit to creating an environment of belonging, dignity, and connection for all members of the school community. We have that in our district plan, very similar language, and the other two buildings as well. The second commitment at the middle school. We will commit to providing all students with access, voice, and ownership in their learning experiences. And that's really around providing agency and student choice in instruction. And the last commitment, sorry. Oh no, they only had two commitments, forgive me. So those are the two for Belport Middle School. Brookhaven, very similar around culture of care. I'll read that to you. So sticking together. Commitment 1, we commit to deepening social and emotional connections among students, staff, families, and community by creating a culture of care, sense of belonging, and agency. And then their second commitment is around academics. Just didn't print right.
Did you want me to read
Sure.
it? We commit to intentionally providing
I
each.
have it. Thank you. We commit to intentionally providing each child with opportunities to practice and build cognitive skills through a shared ownership with teachers to reflect on student learning. And then Earn Crits. Very similar. Commitment 1 is I think their commitment 1 is the academic one. They flip-flopped. We commit to intentionally provide each child with opportunities to practice and build cognitive skills while sharing ownership with teachers to monitor and self-monitor learning. And then their second commitment is around the culture of care. We commit to deepening social and emotional connections among students, staff, and community by creating a culture of care, sense of belonging, and agency. So what the state requires us to do is complete this template. So this is their template. What we do with this is then we create an actionable plan. If you notice, there's a lot of words on here. There are benchmarks, there are timelines. So that's the work that happens to be able to really implement what's in here.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Doyle? Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And so now what we're ready to do is to vote on approving the DCEIP and the DCEP in our entire consent agenda under curriculum, under items G, 1 through 6. Does the Assistant Superintendent have any comments?
Just to give some context to some of these plans, some of the metrics that are used, you really have to look in context. And so having been a participant in these sort of programs in the past, sometimes it's not a real reflection of some of the practices in the school. Not the plan itself, but the criteria they use to make you a targeted school. That said, there is something you can glean from these plans and the process that the state kind of forces you to go through, which is very cumbersome. So I want to thank Ms. Doyle for her attention to the detail and for reporting to us on the fly. I really appreciate it. But yeah, I think it's a good sort of framework that we can use to, you know, develop an action plan that will happen and to really like kind of monitor the progress of the school in accordance to those plans. So, you know, again, we just finished 2 very peculiar years of education. We also dealt with opt-outs, and a lot of these metrics are based on assessment scores. So when you don't have a good sample size of students taking assessments, it can skew the data. So I just wanted to give some context to the board and to the public.
There's one thing I forgot to mention. A lot of the work that we did, that we didn't do last year is student interviews. So these plans were built with student voice, hearing from students, and that was something that we started in the equity committee, and then actually the state is asking schools to do that anyway, so we were ahead of the game there. So there is student representation in these plans.
If there's no more discussion, the administration recommends the approval of curriculum items reflected in schedules G1 through G7.
Is there a motion for item G1 through G7? We'll make the
Technical
motion.
correction.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
I think it would be, the approval would be G1 through G6.
Correct. My apologies.
I just wanted to get the numbers right.
Thank you,
Yep.
Vice President Haynes.
Okay, motion, was there a motion by trustee Trent, seconded by Vice President Hayes? Any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, all those all those who are in favor of the consent agenda G1 through 6, please raise your hands. Thank you very much. Seeing all hands raised, it is approved unanimously. Thank you. Okay, next for you. Item
Next.
H.
We move on to personal agenda items H1 through H8. But at this point, I want to first, the administration recommends approval of personnel changes reflected in schedules H1 through H5 and H7 through H8. So we are.
So we'll take out item 6 and vote on that separately?
Correct.
Okay. All right, everybody understands that. This is, if you look in your administrative context, it would,
If you'd like me to, I'll repeat just for clarity, but we're gonna, the administration recommends approval of personnel changes reflected in schedules H1 through H5 and H7 through H8. So we're omitting H6.
and we'll take that separately, okay.
Correct.
All right, so we'll take a motion and a second, and then we can entertain discussion if there's any. Motion and a second, motion by trustee Hayes, seconded by trustee Trent. And discussion, any other discussion on the personnel agenda? Okay, so as previously stated, it'll be item H 1 through 5 and 7 through 9, 7 through 8. Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hands. Thank you. Seeing all hands raised, the motion is approved unanimously. Now for consideration is item number 6.
So I'm going to look to further break down item number 6, with the board's approval. So administration recommends approval of personnel changes reflected in schedule H6, items 6.1 through 6.13 or 6.13, and items 6.15 through 6.27. Again, that's H6, items 6.1 through 6.13 or 6.13, and 6.15 through 6.27. So in other words, we are separating 6.28. I'm sorry, I apologize.
I think you want to separate 2-7, right?
I'm sorry.
Is that
I'm
the
going to
one?
add to the list. There's actually 4, or we could do them one at a time, whatever is easier for the Board of Trustees to keep track of.
Why don't we, well, okay, go ahead. You, let me see if I follow what you're
So
trying to accomplish.
basically what we're trying to accomplish is the, a separate vote on H614, H627, H6.95.
What was the last one?
95.
So 614, 624, and 695?
627.
627, not 624. 627, those 3. Okay. If I may, can I recommend we vote on those 3 first? And then we can take the rest of the agenda.
Of course.
Okay? So, everybody follow? Check on your agenda, look at the administrative content, one. So that'll be 6.14, 6.27, and 6.95. Sorry for the public and the audience, just bear with us. These are personnel items, so we cannot discuss them in public, but the board, for their votes, does have the context there.
I would just ask if Mr. Santana could tell us once again the items he is recommending.
So, in terms of President Trustee's recommendation, I'll do the 3 that we're going to vote for separately, and then I'll do all of the items I'm recommending. Is that okay?
Okay.
So separately, we're looking to have a vote on H 6.14, H 6.27, and H 6.95. These are 3 separate items that we're going to ask the board to vote on.
And we're going to vote on those as one, or do you want them individually?
You can vote them on as
You
well.
can vote on them as well,
Yeah.
okay. So for the purposes of a motion right now, I'm going to ask for a motion for items, what are we in, H? Yes, H. Item H, 6.14, 6.27, and 6.95, a motion to approve. Is there a motion? I'll make a motion for the purposes of discussion. Is there a second? Seeing no second, going once again, the motion fails. So the motion fails for 6.14, 6.27, 6.95. Now, we'll go through the remainder of the agenda.
Would the Board of Trustees prefer to do a vote at a time with the range of numbers to make it simpler, or
Yeah.
just? Okay.
Yes, please.
So the administration recommends approval of personnel changes reflected in schedules H1 through H5.
Wait, I'm
Wait, hold on.
confused.
Oh, yeah.
What's H1 through H5?
Um,
I'm sorry, let me go back to the agenda.
Aren't we on H6?
Yeah, because you're on item H6, so you have items H6,
Correct.
1 through 6.
13.
Well, I'm just going to give the whole context.
Yeah.
Okay.
6.433.
Oh, so we want to
So-
stay on H first?
So we're going to stay on 6.
Okay,
We're
gotcha.
going to stay on 6.
So the administration recommends approval of personnel changes reflected in Schedule H6, items 6.1 through 6.13,
Okay.
and 6.15 through 6.27.
I don't think you want
2.6.
You want 2.6,
Yeah, 'cause
Correct, my apologies.
okay? All right.
This is
2.6.
confusing me now.
That's okay, no, we got
Not
you,
easy.
we
Here's the
got
answer
you.
to my reading
We've been through
process.
this all the time, so now you want to approve 6.28 through 6.94, I believe.
Right.
Will you just look at that again?
Mhm.
And then after
Correct.
that, you will want to approve 6.96
Mhm.
through the balance, what's that final number?
433.
433. For the benefit of the new board members, do you follow us?
Mhm.
Okay. Yes?
Yes.
Reluctantly, yes, or yes? Yes. Okay. Okay. All right. So we can take that all in one motion. I'll repeat it again, just so that everyone is clear. And then Mr. Santana will go back to the full agenda to approve the other items. Okay. So we are going to need a motion to approve H 6.1 through 6.13, 6.15 through 6.26, 6.28 through 6.94, and 6.96 through 6.433. I need a motion and a second, please. Motion by Vice President Hayes, seconded by, I'm sorry, Mr. Trent, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I wanted the second.
By Trustee Trent. Okay, any further discussion? We have a motion and a second on the floor. The clerk is clear on what we just did? Okay. No further discussion? All those in favor of the motion as just stated, please raise your hands. Thank you. Please put them down. Okay, and that motion is approved. Now, Mr. Santana, we can go back to the remainder of H, which would be 1 through 5, and then 7 through 8. Did we take
I
that
think
motion the
we
first
did that
time?
one.
We did that already, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we went to 6.
And
So
now
we-
we're down to 7 and 8.
Right.
Right.
We only did 1 through 6, or did we add the 7 and 8?
I thought,
Because I
We
did
one
lose
through
track.
5.
We did H1 through H5 and H7 through H8.
We did.
Okay, we did
Okay.
that.
So then we are complete with all of the items in personnel.
And I appreciate the board's patience, and I think I need to wear my reading glasses a bit more, so I'm gonna put them
Not a
on.
problem.
And please note,
We're all going
blue and
through
red. All right, moving on to business agenda items.
Never been able to see,
The
so.
administration recommends approval of business items reflected in schedules I-1 through I-11.
Okay, we need a motion for I-1 through I-11. Motion by Vice President Hayes, seconded by Trustee Kavanaugh. Is there any discussion on the items? These are basically our contract items, budget transfer items for accounting to properly list codes in their correct categories, so on and so forth. And what else is in here that is thrilling and exciting? Okay. And so the board knows, for the benefit of the new board members, the contracts that we approve here tonight, typically the president signs them immediately after the meeting, and I trust that the clerk has them ready, because I'm not available to come in tomorrow morning.
I have, yes, I have them ready.
You have them for tonight?
Yes.
Okay, otherwise, if I'm not available, or there's others that are pending, I would, the president would come in the next day or a day or two after the file to sign them. But tonight, I'll stay tonight with you to sign them, okay? So that's when the contracts get signed. All right, so for those contract items that we just identified, items 1 through 11 in board consent agenda business we need a motion and a second, please. Motion by Trustee Trent, seconded by Trustee Kavanaugh. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you very much. Seeing all hands raised, that motion, I-1 through 11, passes unanimously. Now we're up to our second opportunity for the public to address the board in our guide to board meetings. Do we have any other cards that were submitted? Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address? Okay, seeing none, we are up to our closing remarks by the board members. Do any board members have closing remarks? Okay. And closing.
Can I make a comment?
You have a closing remark?
The closing remark is this. I want to state the obvious, and that is that Dr. Gianni was here for our executive session, and I believe he's watching on YouTube now from his office. We've been in a transition period, and I want to commend both Dr. Gianni and Mr. Santana for how smoothly they have worked out this structure over the month of July, with Mr. Santana being called the assistant to the superintendent, so that you'll be hitting the ground running fully with your title. And also, I was glad to hear you comment about how you'd been involved in making the recommendations for the two new, the athletic director and also our new assistant superintendent for business. And I appreciate all of those efforts, both by you and Dr. Gianni, and I'm glad that this has continued to work well for everybody, and I really am looking forward to the future with a fresh start and an opportunity for you to bring your background and experience, and to have the board function as a board and let you function as the administration. And I'm happy to see where we go with that.
Thank you, I appreciate the comments. I want to again publicly thank Dr. Gianni for helping me transition into this role. And I too am really looking forward to working with this team. And I almost feel like I'm ready to exhale. This has been my first board meeting. So thank you for your patience. And I think for people watching at home, you'll see me around. I'm excited to visit the schools once they're in session, meet our students, meet our staff, and continue making myself visible and accessible to our community. So really honored to be here.
All right. And just, on that note, again, I think we all are very excited for you to hit the ground running, and we're very excited for your commitment to communication, which our community has been calling for. Your communication background was very important to those of us who are around the table who were involved in the interview process, and I do have to say, the interview process was one of the most unifying projects that a Board of Education could ever undertake. And you checked all the boxes that we wanted to check, and I appreciate the time that you are spending with Dr. Gianni to gain from him that institutional knowledge that he had of our district. And I know it's probably bittersweet for him to be here tonight. This would be his last meeting, and why he's in the other room. And I'm sure he's shedding a tear that he's leaving all of us. But we do wish him well in his retirement, and we do thank him for the tenure that he spent with us and guiding this board and this district to the point that we are at today. And so, having said that, the next meeting, you will officially be our
Thank you.
superintendent of schools.
And I really appreciate Dr. Gianni affording me this opportunity to do this meeting while he's watching, so I feel somewhat secure with him there watching. So. But yeah, it's been a good transition, and I'm excited, so thank you.
Having said that, I think we have no other further business to discuss. We'll accept the motion to adjourn. Motion by Trustee Trent, seconded by Trustee Kavanaugh. No objection? No objection. Holy stand adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.